as you can see here, I am basically working on the front panels for the new front of the Batmobile. It just shows you that everything that we do is by hand. So obviously the panels have been cut out with a jigsaw, but everything has to be finished the old-fashioned way, which takes hours and hours and hours and hours. Right, you can see how this is going to look. The other one is actually done, but it's ready for spraying. And then obviously once all these things are put back on, it'll have like quite an aggressive look. It's basically going back to the original 1995 front end that the original Batmobile had. But the idea here is that you've got a representation of the front end, but it's cut away, revealing the guns that are inside. And obviously, as well as that, remember, you've got your tracking camera, which allows the guns to track and move. So that'll be really, really good. So they're all going to be stripped down now, and they're going to go to paint. All right, these are just going to be etch primed. So the golden rule with anything to do with painting is prep, and then it's just a standard etch primer. Really should be using a mask, but I'm outside and it's ventilated, so. So here is one of the disadvantages of not having our nice big workshops, being in lockdown and having to be working from where we are at the moment. When it rains, we can't do any work. Well, this is the Dredd Bike at the moment. It's a bit of a pain. All it does at the moment is drizzle and rain. And obviously because I'm working with the bare aluminium, I don't want to get it damaged. Now, it's a bit of a pain. As you can see, we've got everything sort of strapped down. We just don't have an awful lot of space here. Obviously, you know, when you have a 28-foot long Batmobile and the Fly VR stored, you don't have an awful lot of space. This little darling has just come in as well, so he's parked here. But obviously we do still have enough space to do our spraying. As you can see, we're still working on spraying the panels for the Dredd Bike. Now these two here they just had the grey etch primer put on them. These are the main two front panels. Now we use actually rattle cans to put the etch primer on. Believe it or not, because it's actually, well, it's not cheaper, but it's actually really, really good stuff. I haven't been able to fault this stuff at all. It bonds to the aluminium really, really, really well. And then, of course, what happens is the top coat takes to it, the colour coat, and we get a really, really nice finish. And you can see here, go into the other workshop, we've got all the panels here from the Dredd Bike, all with their colour coat on, all waiting to be sanded back. And then what we'll do is we'll get a nice glossy clear coat put on those. And then eventually they're ready to go onto the bike. Of course, once they go onto the bike, we can then start on the electronics and all detailing to move on to the next phase, the next stage with the Dredd Bike. Right, so we're back on the Dredd Bike. What we've done is primed all the panels. So this is just an etch primer over the aluminium metalwork. And then obviously just then, once the primer is on, take it back until we've got this beautiful, smooth, kind of blemish-free surface. What that then does is that's then going to have a top coat, a colour coat put on it, which you can see here. I'm doing one at the moment. So this is, I've no idea what the blue is. I'll work out, I'll let you know what the Firecracker Blue, I think it's called. Yeah, Firecracker Blue. It's quite a nice, it's a beautiful colour. Now it's just had its first coat. Cellulose, dries very, very quickly. And then basically we're going to have a go another coat then. So, right, golden rule. When you are preparing paint and you're doing multiple panels, so here's one that's been primed, rub it down a bit. It's hard to tell which is, you know, always right. You can just about see that back on the back of the panel, because you know that's the front of the panel. You finish it off, prime it, because obviously I prime both sides because it just sort of makes sense because it protects the metal. However, here's a nice panel. This is obviously all finished off and shiny and whatever, except it's the wrong way around because I painted the wrong side. So I haven't just primed the wrong side and colour coated the wrong side and lacquered the wrong side. It's actually a really, really nice finish, but I've got to do it all over again because the side I actually needed was that. And it was because I didn't write the word back on the back. Right, so this bit we couldn't actually take off the bike because this has obviously been fixed onto this panel here. So wind is picking up now, so it's not the best time to spray, but that's had its kind of second coat on there. All of this will have a top coat and it'll be all nice and glossy and shiny. That's looking quite nice, especially against the black and the silver. And then the exhausts have had their first coat of silver paint on them as well. So, starting to get there now. The Dredd Bike is still underway, and you can see now the eagle for the front of the Dredd Bike. This is going to be, basically, it's a bit like it's going to be, or look like it's been machined in gold. Billet gold, if there is such a thing, I don't know. So this is the eagle for the front of the Dredd Bike that is basically underway.
What are you doing?
I'm sorting out Sam, the American eagle. I'm sorting out the eagle on the front of the Dredd Bike.
Why has he got weights on his wings?
Because to hold him down, he's made of paper mache for the first shape, but he's got a mould to the shape of this. This is why we don't do much fiberglassing work here at Podpadstudios. It is the hours and hours and hours and hours and hours of sanding to finish things off. I mean, they look great. Look at that. I mean, it's going to look great when it's finished. It's going to look beautiful, but it just takes so long to do. And it's just the sanding. It's the sanding that... And you can't do it with a machine because it just doesn't work. It doesn't look good. You've got to do it by hand. And it really is. Get the filler on, sand it off, give it a coat of paint, look at where the imperfections are, put more filler on, sand it down.
What filler do you use?
This is just straightforward I think it's P38 Isopon car body filler. Not fiberglass, just a straightforward resin one. There's no need because the structure on here is paper mache with resin glue. So the structure is already there. This is just filling. You see that rough surface there? This is just filling that surface. So what we're going to end up with here is a lovely, beautiful, smooth surface. This stuff's already waterproof. And as strong as once this is on, it'll be as strong as fiberglass. So there's no need to spend more money putting fiberglass matting on and more resin because it's strong enough anyway. Plus, it's an emblem, isn't it? It's going on the front of the bike. But it is just the hours it takes sanding it all down.
What was the Horn of Erebor actually made from? Big questions and discussions in the workshop yesterday. We know the doors used stone and they mined stone, so did they carve it out of stone? We know it has dwarven carvings and runes on the top of it. But actually, it's more likely it was probably some sort of fantastic animal. Apparently, I spoke to some Tolkien reader experts, which I'm not one, I've got to add. there weren't really many huge creatures described that had horns. So we got free rein, excuse the pun. But what we did do is we did a little bit more research looking at things like ram's horns. They were really too smooth. Then we looked at elephants' tusks, rhinoceroses' tusks, again, too smooth, too white. We ended up looking at ammonites and therefore to modern day shells, periwinkle shells. And quite often snails and periwinkles, things like that, they have like bands of growth in them, although most of the markings run around the snail. So we kind of used that and added in a few bands of growth, and I'm much happier with it now. I wasn't quite happy with it first. So now what I'm doing is I'm painting the black lines on, I'm painting extra white, and then I'm going back in and I'm just looking at where have we got it to make it give it that depth. I'm just putting on the little extra black lines, and it's so marvellously textural that there's parts in it which have got big lumps of texture on, which I'm just painting round and accentuating, and I'm loving it. So the final bit will be, we'll have to put some varnish on it, and we're just looking at what varnishes to use. So that will be, once I've put a few more of these lines in, going across this whole body of it, and finish the runes, that will really be it for the Horn of Erebor.
So we're going to have our first audio test. Our acting isn't that good. Let's try again.
Ooh, my tummy. Shouldn't have had them sprouts for dinner.